The opening scene introduces us to a guy named Yoon Seok-woo, who serves as a lab worker in the military. During a few days of leave, he returns home, only to find that his family members are planning to go on a holiday trip overseas. Despite his strong desire to join them on the trip, he is unable to go, as his military service is not over yet. Apart from this, Seok-woo's family does not hold his profession in high regard, and as a result, they do not appear to be happy on his arrival. During their brief conversation, his mother makes a mean remark, noting that she sometimes forgets that he is in the military because his duties do not align with the typical image of a soldier. Here, it is revealed that Seok-woo has been working in the military research lab for his 2-year service, which is why his family does not give much importance to his work. Now that Seok-woo will be staying alone at home, his father sternly warns him not to tamper with his liquor cabinet, while his mother hands him a note with a list of household chores he must complete before they return. The first work on the list is to clean the house and take out the trash. Seok-woo, despite his reservations, is left with no choice but to follow these instructions. As his family departs on their vacation, Seok-woo begins cleaning the house. He gathers the recyclable trash and disposes of it in a designated area, located right in front of the apartment. Upon returning home, he receives a voicemail from his female friend, Kim Yoo-min, who invites him to join her for dinner later in the evening. Seok-woo gets excited to meet her, which prompts him to hasten his cleaning efforts. During this process, he comes across a decaying apple that seems to have been infected from one side. A few moments later, he is also startled when he opens a bucket filled with putrid food waste. Reluctantly, he transfers the foul-smelling food into a trash bag and proceeds to clean the bucket as well. After cleaning the entire house, Seok-woo gets ready for dinner and heads out with a trash bag in hand. Along the way, he comes across a food waste disposal bin, so he throws his trash bag, containing the rotten apple, right into it. Unbeknownst to anyone, all of that rotten waste food undergoes some sort of chemical reaction, which results in the generation of something big and unexpected. Later that evening, the sanitation workers arrive in their truck to collect the waste, which is later subjected to processing and ultimately converted into cattle feed for the livestock of different farms. Following the process, those livestock are eventually slaughtered for their meat, which finds its way onto restaurant plates for customers. On the other hand, Seok-woo meets up with Yoo-min at a restaurant where they relish a delectable barbecue meal. They also decide to try a special dish of the restaurant, which is cow's liver. While eating, Seok-woo feels something in his mouth. He takes it out, only to discover a peel of the same rotten apple he had disposed of earlier. Although the coincidence is very eerie, he does not pay much attention to it and continues to savor the food without any hesitation. He is completely unaware of the fact that the meat originates from the same cows that were fed with tainted food waste. In the midst of all this, Yoo-min takes some pictures of the delicious food via cell phone. Curious, Seok-woo asks her for the reason why she's doing that, to which she replies that she wants to capture each and every moment of her life so that she can cherish them in the future and also toss them up on the gram for 7 likes. After their meal, Seok-woo and Yoo-min go to an empty park where they share a passionate kiss. Seok-woo gets carried away by emotions, prompting him to make physical advances. This makes Yoo-min feel uncomfortable, so she stops him. Seok-woo then invites her to his place so that they can have some private time together, but the latter hesitates, pointing out that they have only known each other for 3 days and that they should go slow. Believing that he offended her, Seok-woo apologizes to her and confesses his feelings towards her. He says that he loves her a lot and wants to marry her. This leaves Yoo-min speechless for a moment. After this, Seok-woo inquires why someone as attractive as Yoo-min would be interested in an unromantic guy like himself. In response, Yoo-min tells him that she finds him very kind and loyal, qualities she values greatly. This sets him apart from other guys, in her eyes. As the two continue chatting, Yoo-min suddenly notices an unusual and peculiar black mark on Seok-woo's face. Before they can talk about it, their conversation is rudely disrupted by a couple of high school students who throw a ball towards Seok-woo. Enraged, he chastises the students and instructs them to go home. However, the students band together and start beating him up. Seok-woo is eventually knocked to the ground, leading him to vomit a piece of the meat he consumed earlier. The next second, something very strange happens. Seok-woo undergoes a sudden transformation into a zombie-like creature, endowed with increased strength. He surprisingly overpowers the students and even resorts to biting them with his sharp teeth. Yoo-min captures Seok-woo's shocking transformation and his violent behavior on her phone before fleeing the scene out of fear. Seok-woo tries to stop her, desperately insisting that he is not the person she had just witnessed, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. Following this, Seok-woo, with a confused face, also departs the park, wondering how it all happened. In the aftermath of this event, the two students also get infected through Seok-woo's bite and slowly undergo a transformation as well, changing them into zombies. They then approach a young couple in the park and launch an aggressive attack on on them. In the meantime, Yu-min boards a bus in order to head back home, but her health seems to be deteriorating as well. She begins to cough uncontrollably and feels increasingly restless. Her face also starts to exhibit the same black mark exactly as Seok-woo. A short while later, she abruptly gets off the bus and throws up on the side of the road. Gradually, all those people who had their beef meal earlier are seen vomiting in the streets. They also begin to show aggressive behavior due to the virus. As a result, they turn upon one another, engaging in brutal altercations for no apparent reason. Elsewhere, Seok-woo reaches out to one of his friends and goes to meet at a bar. In a bid to find an explanation as to what's going on, Seok-woo tries to confide in his friend. However, the latter fails to grasp his actual problem. Believing that Seok-woo is simply stressed, his friend suggests that they hit the dance floor and attempt to divert his troubled mind. However, the loud music and crowded environment deeply disturb Seok-woo. This results in his getting into a brawl with the other partygoers. During this commotion, Seok-woo bites several of them, causing them to be exposed to the infection. He then makes his way back home, during which he accidentally drops his phone on the road. Due to this, Yu-min is unable to reach him. As the virus continues its unrelenting spread throughout the city, it plunges the area into great chaos. News outlets begin reporting on the virus, describing the peculiar and distressing symptoms exhibited by infected individuals, such as alterations in eye appearance, rabid outbursts, and heightened strength. In an attempt to control the situation, the Department of Agriculture takes decisive action, employing over 30 health officials to conduct thorough inspections of local livestock farms. And once the examination is done, they suspect that 6 of these farms have been contaminated by now. A week passes, and Seok-woo, who is now completely transformed into a zombie, is seen in his apartment watching the news in a state of profound agitation. His frequent outbursts appear to have led to the destruction of items in his apartment, rendering it in a state of disarray. A few days later, his family returns from the holiday trip and rings the doorbell of the apartment. When they receive no response from Seok-woo, they use a spare key to access the apartment. Inside, they witness the house in a completely messed up and wrecked state. His father is specifically furious to see his cherished liquor bottles shattered into pieces. Moments later, they find Seok-woo sitting still in darkness. As they call out to him, he starts advancing towards them in an unusual way. Witnessing this, the family members sense something amiss, but before they can react, Seok-woo launches an attack on his parents and bites them to death. Amid this horrifying event, his sister manages to run into the bathroom and lock herself in. A few more days pass by, and the virus seems to have taken on a new form. The infected people are now exhibiting additional symptoms, like an uncontrollable appetite for sexual desire and profound depression. They have now transformed into aggressive entities as they wildly attack those who remain uninfected. As a result of this, the number of casualties is rapidly escalating, and the situation has spiraled into an uncontrollable nightmare. In an attempt to stop the epidemic, the government issues an advisory. They urge the citizens to seek safety and prescribe a course of action that includes running away from people exhibiting strange behavior. Incredibly, no one had thought of that yet. However, it is not that simple, as the city is already under the dominion of the infected. The uninfected people are seen on the rooftops of buildings, shouting for help. On the other hand, the scientific and medical community are still unable to find out the origin or potential remedy for this insidious virus. The next scene unfolds on the grim streets of the city, where a number of zombies are seen roaming around. It is at this moment when Seok-woo meets Yu-min once again. They appear to recognize each other and start to walk together. Shortly after, they stumble into a decaying apple lying on the ground. Yu-min picks it up and offers it to Seok-woo, who takes a bite out of it without thinking.